Hello, I'm Scotty Sanders, author of Quest of the Keys. This is a fantasy fiction novel that introduces students to a lifelong adventure of personal growth and leadership development. Quest of the Keys engages your students' imagination and brings positive character traits to life. Local businesses can partner with Quest of the Keys to donate this book to middle schools in their area and make a difference in their community. To find out more about a business partnership or to purchase this book for yourself or for your teenager, please visit us at Quest
Welcome into another edition of Believers in Business right here on The Word. We appreciate your time each and every day. Thank you so much. And boy, today we are in for a treat. He's an author, he's an entrepreneur, he's a man of faith, and now he's in my studio. Give it up for Scotty Sanders. How you doing?
Doing great, Brian. Good to be here with you.
Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into this book, Quest of the Keys, and I love the cover, and we'll put some stuff on our social media here in just a little bit. Let's kind of get into the backstory and give me kind of the 2-minute version of why you're here and how'd you get here.
Yeah. Well, I'll make it quick. So a little bit of my background. I started my first business when I was 17 years old. Not many people get to do that. And so I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfather had been in business for many years, and I had an opportunity to do that. So I started my first business at 17. But when I was 28, God called me in the ministry. I had an opportunity to sell my business to my brother-in-law that has done so much better than I could have ever done with it. He's become, let's just say he's done extremely well. But I served in a couple large churches, mostly as the executive pastor of those churches. So it's basically leadership development. That's what I love getting to do, mobilizing people. But my wife was having some pretty serious health issues about 11 years ago, and it became where I needed to stay at home more and take care of her. And so I resigned from my position as the executive pastor, and in 2008, the best time to start a business, I launched my consulting firm, Life Catalyst Consulting.
That's a great joke, by the way.
Yeah, it's just like maybe the worst time in the last 50 years to do that.
I'm pretty sure our word listeners just got that joke.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So it's like not the optimum time to do that. And I really thought, well, listen, I'll do this for a season. Let's see what happens. Maybe 6 months, and here I am, almost 11 years later. And it's allowed me to do a lot of things I never really planned to do. I just wanted to help churches, help businesses to lead themselves better, lead the organizations better.
And we talked a little bit before the show about the need for leadership in our culture today. I think we've lost leaders. We have Zig Ziglar is one of the personalities that we had talked a little bit about before the show. And people to motivate and inspire and show what it's like and what a true leader looks like.
Yes. Well, again, I go back to what drives me is my purpose, and I think it's important we all kind of figure that out. And my purpose is to encourage and empower others to live, lead, and finish well. Now, as a believer, we know the only way you really finish well, right, is where you are with your relationship with Christ. So, but you still need I want people to live well. I think we can have that abundant life, and I think we need to lead well. When we lead ourselves well, then it allows us the opportunity to lead others. But you first start with lead yourself well. That's always the first block you've got to get right.
And we're talking church, we're talking business, we're talking at home. It doesn't matter. A leader's a leader.
Yeah, and that's something I think I've been able to do somewhat successfully, that I've been able to move through any type of organization. Churches are some of the most difficult organizations really to lead because you depend on volunteers. You know, in a business, right, you can pay people to come back for volunteers. You have to lead them differently. So I've worked with some large nonprofits, large businesses, and some very large churches. And leadership is needed in all of those, but you have to lead differently in some ways depending on what the organization is.
That's a great point. Now, in business, what do you think the biggest problem is as far as developing leaders in the business?
Yeah, I think part of it is really making that something that's expected. Again, I kind of go back to, if you're a doer, you can do it at a certain level, but if you can become a developer, then it's an unlimited potential on that, because you can do it 100, if you will, but if you become a developer, you can be at 100,000. So to help people not only just lead themselves, but how do you multiply yourself that now you're developing other people? And that's where the real gold is in my mind.
Scotty Sanders is our guest on the show for Believers in Business. The book is called Quest of the Keys. We'll get into that. But you kind of stumbled into becoming an author. It wasn't your mission to write books.
No, it was not.
But you were kind of asked to write a book. Let's talk about that.
In fact, some people say, I'm surprised you ever wrote a book, especially if they went to school with me. So really,
that's another joke our word listeners got.
It's like they're surprised as I am sometimes. So that was really never the goal, but the book became a tool to help me to accomplish my purpose, if you will. And part of the first book that my wife and I were involved in, called One Focus Living, went along with what we call the One Focus Initiative, where we use it in church to help churches to mobilize their congregation for evangelism. But we just started getting so many requests from churches saying, we really need a book and curriculum to go along with the initiative to help teach this through a small group. And so that pushed us to do that. It wasn't to write a book. It fit into helping us to better resource this initiative. And we've sold thousands of books and used it. And literally, we use One Focus Initiative in churches all over the world. Probably be in 1,000 churches by the end of this year. Africa, and probably, 25, 30 countries.
Wow, it's amazing. What's one of the most difficult things about writing a book?
Starting is always the
Just
difficult.
starting.
Yeah, and again, having that discipline. People ask me all the time, what does it take to write a book? I say you need to write every day. So I practice. One of the 3 things that I do every day: I study, I plan, and I write. So I'm either writing a blog article, a next training, or my next book project I might be working on. So I'm disciplined to write every day. So it's starting the writing process of doing that. And here's the other thing I would say: don't feel like you have to go solo on that. Again, part of having a vision behind a book, what you want to do, but you may need to surround some people with you that can help you make it a great book. And that's exactly what I've done on every book I've been involved with, is having a team approach.
The book is called Quest of the Keys. Let's talk about this book and kind of what motivated you to write it. And we'll kind of dig in deep, because you've got some great, and before the show we talked about these note cards that you use, and you're going to change my life, Scotty, because I'm going to start that tomorrow morning. I'm going to go to Office Depot.
Hey, that fires me up, man.
It does. I'm being very transparent here. You're exactly what I need to hear. But let's talk about this book and what led you to write this.
Just like One Focus Living, I never set out to write Quest of the Keys. That would never, and people know me and say, and you even wrote a fantasy fiction book. They're even more shocked about that. But here's kind of the backstory there. I'd been teaching something called the 8 Keys to Success in a lot of different organizations, and we just finished up a new DVD project. I'm meeting with my creative director, and he just pitched this idea. Scotty, I know one of the things you're really excited and passionate about is really pouring into the next generation. What if we took these keys and incorporated that in a novel fantasy fiction? So basically, what do you think about writing a fantasy fiction in a story form that includes that? And I hear a lot of different ideas, but I said, that's intriguing. And so I went home, my wife and I started praying about it, and we really believe that God led us to write this book, and we just started getting a lot of creative ideas, and that's where it started. Very dynamic process involving my wife, myself, and a couple other people to get it at this level, but that's really where it started. How could we speak it to the next generation, the same principles I teach at CEOs?
What do you think this book does, ultimately?
I think it helps people to change their world, and part of that is how they look at themselves, taking personal responsibility, making better choices, and seeing that they've got something more significant that they can contribute in the world, something that can be a gift to the world when they figure out what their purpose is.
You've got a great flow chart here, and I want to take a picture and put this on social media as well. I'm learning so much today about changing your world, is cultivate and develop, and actually take personal responsibility.
Yes. So again, when we look at these 8 different keys, we believe they break up into 2 different groups. The first group would be what we call your intrinsic characteristics, like knowing what your purpose is. That's something internal. Reaching your potential, something internal. Your persistence, that's internal. So I'll give a few of those. So that's something we can really only cultivate in people. So we try to provide leadership training, coaching to cultivate those. And then the next set of keys would be the extrinsic life skills. How can you improve your people skills? What about problem solving? What about knowing the importance of prioritizing? So important. I write down every day my 3 top priorities for every day. If I don't get anything else done, I'm going to get those 3 things done.
Now, if you don't, what do? Do you carry that over the next day?
It could carry over, but rarely does that not happen.
I'd love to hear that.
Rarely does that not happen. Now, I might not get a lot else done, but I'm getting those 3 things done.
Well, those are the top 3.
Yeah. So it varies every day. So today, one of my top 3 things is to be on the Brian Glenn Show.
Well,
that was on the top 3 for today.
Scratch that off the list. You're doing that. Scotty Sanders is our guest in the studio, talking about the book Quest of the Keys. You've gotten a lot of attention on this book. There's even talk about going into kind of a film based around this.
Yes, and that's another one of those things. Never set out to make a movie.
Never set out to do it.
But let me tell you how that first started.
Okay.
We had actually engaged some actors that played different characters in the book. When we did our original book launch event, we actually acted out some of the scenes, and one of the actors that had played the main character, Declan, he had the copy of the book, and he was meeting with his producer friend and started talking about this project. The producer takes that to another producer. Next thing I know, I'm in deep conversation about them buying the rights to the book to make it a movie. It happened that quick. And we ended up not working that out because they wanted the rights of it, and I would have to give that up. And I was very concerned that it could end up turning into something that I was not interested in. So we felt like that was a seed that was planted, an opportunity. So we've just been open to kind of seek and see what happens. And just here recently, in the last 6 months, we have engaged in a partnership with a company in Hollywood that they are now involved in helping us get the script written, and we have a producer involved in the project. He works with Warner Brothers and some others that will be responsible for putting the movie deal together. Now listen, it's a long way to get a movie done, but we've taken a giant step to get it on the big screen.
Absolutely. You said earlier about changing the world around us, and this is focused for kids.
Yes.
And how do you get a young person, a young teenager, 13, 14, 12, to do that and to take that first step?
Well, we found probably one of the better ways to get it into a student is when it becomes part of what the school uses. So we're able to now to get into, I don't know, we've got orders in just this week for maybe close to 1,000 students. So this will become required reading in public schools.
There you go. Oh,
Okay.
public schools.
In public
That's very
schools.
surprising.
Okay, because there's nothing in the book that someone could read and say this is a Christian book.
Okay.
If you are a Christian, you're going to realize there are lots of Christian themes throughout. I call it my Trojan horse to get in schools. And not only they use the book, but a lot of these schools I'll actually go in and speak and do a school assembly for them.
That is smart. That is smart because we know how society is. If you were to label Christianity all over this book, you'd have a line of people. Well, maybe you wouldn't. You'd have one or two out there screaming that doesn't belong in the schools. Right. I really like that a lot. Scotty Sanders is our guest on the show. How can somebody get this book right now?
So probably the best way, and we've got it in 3 different versions. You can go to Amazon.com. You can get the paperback copy. There's also a Kindle version, and then you can also get a fantastic audible book as well. So it's done in all the characters, the voice. We hired a guy that's one of the most downloaded of the classics of anybody. Fantastic.
Nice.
So we got a guy we did through a pretty strict selection process, but he did a fantastic job.
I love that. And of course, with all the traffic we have in North Texas, an Audible book is
Yes.
a very popular thing to have, and provide. It makes a great birthday or Christmas gift as well. Just saying. Okay, if someone wanted to help you champion this project, and we talked a little bit off before the show how I feel like people should get involved in their schools, should get involved in their kids' lives, and there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that parent steering them in any direction. But how can someone help you further the cause and get this book in many hands as possible?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We are a nonprofit, so we depend on donations from individuals and corporations. So I would say go to questthekeys.com. You can find out a lot more. And then you can fill out our information, just a little information, send in you're a business, you'd love to sponsor a school assembly. We have more schools right now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that want to participate, but we do not have all the funding for those yet. So if you're a business and you're committed to make a difference in young people, and we'll give you a lot of things in return for that. We'll do a press release. I'll give you some free training along the way, but that's one of the ways if you're a business. And we also have a number of corporate sponsors. If you'd like to be a corporate sponsor, it helps us nationally. You can do that. If you're an individual, let me encourage you to become one of our monthly supporters. And by doing that, we'll give you a lot of free stuff as well.
Free stuff is good.
Yes, a lot of free stuff.
Free stuff is good. Okay, so let's get into the book itself. I know we don't want to go too much into the plot here, but you do have it broken down after you read a chapter, a section. There's a little bit of a kind of like a worksheet type page that comes up to kind of get you thinking and having a young person maybe recap what they just read and kind of a fill in the blank. Let's talk about the purpose behind that.
Yeah, again, although it is a novel fantasy fiction story, we still wanted to have enough of that didactic element that they can think for a little bit about what did I learn in this chapter, and for them to reflect. And some people would prefer to read through it and go back and answer that later. So we have that at the end of each chapter, and we also have that as an appendix. So it basically is some reflection points and also some questions for them to think about and say, for instance, under passion, what is it that keeps you up at night?
Well, let me ask you a question. When should someone try to find their passion? Because I've heard different theories on this, and I'm really curious to see what you have to say. Does a young person know their passion yet, you think? 12, 13, 14?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's on their radar, and they're starting to think about what is it really gets me excited, that I really enjoy doing. And my big thing would be, by the time you finish whatever education formally, you need to be at that place. And really, as you're completing your education, it's no need of getting a certain degree if it doesn't fit into what you're going to be passionate about. So as you're finishing up your education, make sure, if you want to be a doctor, you need to get the right education that fits along with that. But the thing that makes me sad, and I hear this a lot, Brian, is people will get a job and they'll work 40 or 50 years, 8 hours a day, 6 days, 5 days a week, and the thing they live for is the weekends and a vacation and the holidays. Why not reverse that and you love what you do? And that's going back to, if you can figure out what you're really passionate about and you love doing it, and it's cliche, but it never seems like work to you. And it doesn't feel that way with me.
It doesn't. I say this all the time. On my show on 620, the afternoon show I do, I say all the time, if you're literally driving home from work and you're dreading going back tomorrow, then you need to make that a priority in life. To find something that you're passionate about doing, that you want to get up and do.
Yes.
Because you're right, there's nothing more sad than someone spending that many years of their life wasting it away.
Right.
Doing something they're simply not enjoying.
Yeah, and it's epidemic, and that's kind of the norm. I'm saying break that mode. Even if you make less money initially, if that's what drives you, but if you're passionate about something, you're going to be more successful. You just are, because you're not going to have to be forced to do it. You love doing it. You sleep it, you eat it, you breathe it, something you love getting to do.
I think young people can discover their passion kind of early.
Yes.
I mean, yes, I don't. My very first thing I ever wanted to be was a cartoonist. And then that's when people, Stuart,
Yes.
drew, and I realized I couldn't draw. And then I wanted to be a doctor. So my parents went out and bought me all these medical journals, and I realized, yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. So then I'm going to get this out of my backpack here. Let's see. You'll like this. This is a Star Wars action figure, 1976. It's the original Boba Fett, whatever. Depends where you are in the country. I got this action figure because when I was a kid, my parents gave me a video camera, very much like the one that's videotaping us now, and I made small, little mini movies out of this action figure. By myself in my room in the backyard. And I carry around this in my backpack to remind me every day of why I'm into broadcasting, why I'm in content creation, video, audio, radio. It's to remind me of why I got into it. Because when I was a kid, I enjoyed it. And when I talked to schools in the area, and mostly media, they want to be on television, right? They want to be the next big thing. I tell them, if that's what excites you to wake up and create content, then that's what you do. Yeah. If it's baking cookies, go be the best cookie maker you can be.
Yeah, Brian, I love that story. And again, cultivating that, getting it on the radar. Most people go through life and it's not even on the radar. Start thinking about it, dwelling on it, spend some time. It's one of the most important things you'll decide, and we give no thought to it at all. Mm-hmm. At least have some thought in that direction. And again, our job is to cultivate that in young people, to start thinking about that. And before you know it, when you find what you're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. If you start looking for it, you'll find it. But if you're never looking for your purpose, you're never looking for what you're passionate about, you'll never find those
And
things.
don't you think when people say, what is your dream? I think you can have multiple dreams.
You can.
Because there's multiple times in your career where your dream changes.
Yes, it does. And your purpose can change over time, too. Mine has changed and morphed, I think, over the last 10 or 15 years. I think I've really zeroed in. But what I've found over the last 15 years, especially the last 10 years, that so much of what I do almost threads the needle on my purpose. And it also helps me to say no to a lot of stuff, because it doesn't help me to accomplish. Your purpose serves two sides. One, to help you make decisions of what to do, but even more importantly, what not to do.
Well, that goes back to your biblical, your faith.
Yes.
And your foundation.
Yes.
If it doesn't agree with your foundation, you're not going to go that direction.
Right,
you can't
exactly.
do it. Okay, so the kids that have read this book, Quest to the Keys, what's the feedback that they're giving you?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things I hear from them is very entertaining, engaging. It helped me to think about my life more, about what I want to be a better person, helped me to think about what my purpose is in life. And then they usually follow it up, when's the next book coming out? Or make this a movie kind of deal.
Or just an app.
Yeah, or just an app, yes.
Yeah. Can we make this a video game?
Yes.
Which, you know what? Never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
We've had that in the works. It's not materialized. Some other priorities have kind of popped up, like the movie.
Yeah, kind of like your whole career on this. It's just kind of been, it just happens.
Yes.
It just happens. You never know what's next. So time-wise, how long did it take you to write this book?
It took right at a year, maybe a few weeks, less than a year. Again, it was one of those things, the meat of it as far as the teaching was really already there. It was really pulling that story together that it took a year. And again, it was a very collaborative process. We involved a 19-year-old female that had dyslexia, just to really challenge people, no matter what your circumstances are, you can change the world. So she became part of our writing team involved in this, but she also gave us a good female perspective as well.
Yeah.
So fun to do that.
It's fun to do that. If you're not writing the book, you're not teaching leadership seminars, what do you like to do? What does Scotty Sanders like to spend his time doing?
Yeah. Well, I've been married for 39 years. I'm still madly in love with my wife. I love spending time with her, dating her, and I'm a learner. I love learning. I've learned from being here with you today, honestly. So I just love getting to do that. That's what gets me up in the morning. I'm just a learner, and I learn so that I can help others, and I'm just super passionate about that. I don't really have a lot of hobbies other than time with my wife, my kids, and my grandkids, and time with learning.
And people say if you're spending time, if you're complaining about something, some aspect in your life, but then you're spending time, watching NBA basketball or sports, you're doing something that is not productive, don't complain, because everyone has the time on this earth to do
what's important to
do what's important to you. So
that goes back to setting your priorities. Once you set your priorities, is give time to the things you say are most important to you, and it's really that opportunity cost. If you invest time in this, what else could you invest the time in to get a greater return on your time?
I really want you to hammer home these cards real quick. And if someone's listening, if you take nothing away from this interview, which by the way, I want you to go get the book Quest of the Keys and read it, and then give it to your kids if you have kids and let them read it. But how can that card right there, doing this system, change someone's life right now listening to us?
So let me tell you a little backdrop on this. I do quite a bit of executive coaching. So I was working with a number of executives, and I would lay out for them, this is a number of years ago, a very detailed, their life plan for that year. And I'd follow up with them 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then 3 months, 6 months in, they've quit doing things, they've stopped doing it. And what I realized, something that may have been easy for me was daunting for them and difficult. And I almost felt like a failure as a coach that they weren't following through. And I said, I've got to figure out a way that's doable for everybody. And the key word there is doable. So I said, let me see what I can take something, this concept, and keep it really simple. So I've developed it. I kind of follow Proverbs 3:5, so it becomes a 3x5 card. Okay, so on this 3x5 card,
Smart.
I'm able to write down everything I want to do for this day. So every day I write the date, I write a new card, I have the purpose, what my purpose is, which is to encourage and empower others to live, lead, and finish well. I write that down every day. It's a reminder in my mind, that is my purpose. What am I doing today to fulfill my purpose? I write down the 3 things that I'm passionate about. That doesn't change. I'm passionate about learning, I'm passionate about developing leaders, and I'm passionate about the next generation. That's why I Quest the Keys. Then I write down my 3 goals, and there's something I can measure. I'm not going to get into the details, but I can track that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, where I am on my goals. And then on the back of the card, I write down the 3 things I do almost every day, and that is I study, I plan, and I write every day. Now, up to this point, nothing has changed. All that static information, but writing it down reinforces, it engages my reticular activity system to say this is important, right? And then my 3 top priorities, and it happens to be that I had a early morning conference call this morning. That was number 1. Radio interviews with Brian, and 3rd, I've got a lot of speaking prep and training I've got to do. I'm going to do that later on this afternoon tonight. Those are my 3 top priorities. And here's the last one. It may be the most important, and this piece changes. I write down the 3 things that I'm grateful for every day.
No kidding.
Yeah, like today, here's one of mine. This almost doesn't change other than the number. Today is my 21,486 day on this earth, and I'm grateful for every day. Every day is a gift. We have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. And I'm also grateful for, I put my wife down, and I put Margaret McCoy, because she's been so helpful in so many things that we're involved in doing. So those are the 3 things I wrote down that I'm grateful for today. But those change, but my day changes, because tomorrow it'll be 21,487 days. But every day is a gift. And this is a powerful tool, and we will make this available. We'll put a link somewhere and give this an ebook to everybody for free. They'll have to just give us their information. We'll get it sent to them. It's a free gift. I have 2 versions. I have what I call my Christian version that I use in churches and some nonprofits, called the 3x5 plan. The other one's called Hacking Your Life, that teenagers tend to resonate with a little bit more.
This is brilliant stuff. Scotty Sanders is our guest in the studio. I may just make him a franchise piece of the show, because I think this is a simple. It's technology has changed our lives with all this stuff, and you and I connected earlier on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And we'll probably become Facebook friends here in a little bit. And we'll get to social media here in a second. But the simple 3x5 card that can change your life.
Yes.
Just writing it down.
I have people tell me all the time, having those 3 priorities, it gives them tremendous focus and a sense of accomplishment. And again, I do this early in the morning, part of my time with the Lord in prayer and stuff. But what it does, it makes me feel like before I even leave, I've already won for the day because I took the time to think
That's
through. It gets the right mindset.
It does. Okay, real quickly, let's talk about social media and how people, listeners of the Word, can find you on social media, get more information on Quest of the Keys, order the book, and we're powerful as far as sharing statuses and sharing updates. So what's all your social
So
media?
let me tell you a few things you can go to. So my Twitter feed is at the Life Catalyst, and then we have a Facebook page, Quest of the Keys. We also have a Twitter page with Quest of the Keys as well. But something else, if you want some ongoing leadership stuff from me, I do a Facebook Live most every Monday night that I take some of these same things you've heard from me today. So you can go to my business page, Scotty Sanders, and do that. Just follow that, and you'll get the link. You'll get information about what. Like this next week, I'm talking about the 5-4-1 rules for parenting. Kind of getting ready to go back to school for kids. So I teach the 5-4-1 rules that I want to help encourage parents to help lead their family that way. But I do something new every week and fresh. That's the way that you can get some free content just by doing that. So, so I'm trying to think what else. That would be my Twitter, Facebook, Quest of the Keys. Facebook, my business page, Scotty Sanders.
There you go. Social media is so important.
It is.
And I think if people don't grasp the fact that if you're trying to reach the young people, books are great.
Yes.
Social media as well can help get their attention just for a second. Scotty Sanders, it's been great. I just enjoyed every moment of this interview.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here. You did a great job interviewing me, asked some great questions, and I look back I'm gonna maybe take you up on it. I may not be every week, but every so often, I'd love to come back and be on your show.
You know where I sit every day. That wraps up this edition of Believers in Business. As always, go to our website, check out more information right here on the Word. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.